Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of IndieX 2022. And now we have a really awesome game called Grid Force, and it's a pleasure of having a Brazilian brother, Dan Bernardo, a video game creator who lives here in Europe, in London. We should be speaking in Portuguese because when we were off the record, we noticed we both could be speaking in other language. But in consideration with our audience, we're going to keep this in English. Dan, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, man. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
So we were just talking about this before starting, before we going live. It's obvious you are a big fan of Mega Man.
Yeah, I'd say it's very hard to deny how much of Mega Man Battle Network we've been inspired by in the game. Actually, Mega Man Battle Network is one of the main um, inspirations. I think we got at least two or three games that we absolutely loved, and we want to kind of update for a new audience. But yeah, Battle Network.
Like
I,
like
I I
what?
don't know how much time.
Like what? Can
Um,
you?
So for the gameplay, of course, the combats are very Mega Man Battle Network-ish, but the story is very reminiscent of the structure of games like Fire Emblem um, and Final Fantasy. So everybody from the team was very nerds about JRPGs, if you want to do something similar. But the structure of having lots of characters is it comes from, especially when we start creating the game, we are also playing Three Houses,
Mm-hmm.
Fire Emblem, and that was a big inspiration. And then people also, of course, because of the grid base gameplay, they also ask, "Oh, did you guys got inspired by games like One Step from Eden?"
Mm-hmm.
And no, because we started creating this before, but we feel very, happy to be compared by with a game like that because we really love that.
Yeah, I think your two games were the first mechanical resurrection I've seen from Mega Man Battle Network, and as a fan, I was immediately drawn to both your games because of that. Because you're picking the inspiration is obvious, but you're not cloning Mega Man Battle Network. You're actually doing something of yours, and whoever plays Grid Force now will notice it's not a pastiche. It's something completely original.
Yeah, it was something very deliberate. When we decided to create something that was grid-based, although we love the gameplay of Mega Man Battle Network, we just ask ourselves, can we bring something new to the table? Um, and then when the answer was quite clear for us, yes, then we committed to the project. But yeah, it's quite different in gameplay. I'm very concerned about people like, oh, I'm going to play Mega Man Battle Network. It's like, no, it's a different thing.
I don't know if it's just me, but there's something I felt in terms of art direction in your game. It reminded me of another. We obviously are constantly doing comparisons, and I don't feel a bit sad or diminished in any way because you have your own voice. But there was something uh, really organic in your art direction that reminded me what Rinkbox was doing with Severed, for example, or even in some places with Guacamele. Your art direction, your palette is closer to that, and I think it's all at the same time pretty distinctive. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is the big thing about indie games is that it's very because the tools that we have in our hands, it's very easy to get like clones of games because you just use the same tools. And this is something that we really wanted to be very different. We wanted people to look at the game and say, "Oh, those are the guys who create that game."
Yeah.
So instead of creating very complex graphics, we decided to go for something very distinctive.
Hmm.
And although I love guacamole and I completely can see the angular like nature of all characters is actually um, inspired by like 60s and 70s posters, graphic
Yeah,
posters.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
We want this to be
Yeah.
each character to be almost like an icon that people
Hmm.
understand what they are just by the shape of them. Um, my background is as a art direction in tech, so I really want to bring something graphically, not necessarily a triple A, but something that people gonna remember. So yeah, you cannot actually do something absolutely original, but I think we find a good balance of a game that looks distinctive, but also not necessarily, super high end
Yeah,
graphics.
I think it's impossible for anyone not to look at the screenshot or just a small piece of Grid Force and immediately identify it as Grid Force as soon as they come in contact with. And it's obvious that we are constantly making comparisons, and sometimes it must sound negative or even in a way redundant to the actual authors. But I think it's not the case. I think you're also that kind of distinctive art direction. For me, it will actually help to for the players to memorize what Dreamnauts Studios are envisioning with Grid Force.
Yeah, there's the thing. I have no problems with comparisons because it's very hard for you to create something in isolation. You're always inspired by something else.
Yeah.
And anyone comes say, "Oh, I did this as absolute new thing," is not really doing any favors to anyone.
Yeah.
As long as this is something that we are happy with and the audience connects to, it's okay if people remember, reminds people other things because that's what we do. We, create on top of. We are standing on the shoulders of giants. So it's great. It's great to be in this position.
Are you prepared, for instance, in 5 years to uh, in an event for younger developers to say, "Hey Dan, how are you? We really loved Grid Force and we were inspired to do our game. Can you watch it? Are you ready for this?"
If I'm probably gonna have a heart attack. This is a dream. Like we spend a lot of the time in the studio actually helping schools and young developers. The whole team has a 20% time where they actually spend supporting up and coming people coming just in the industry. So it's a
Really?
work that we do. Yeah,
Locally, or are you doing that internationally too?
we do anywhere. If we can travel to the place, we will. The whole team mentors at least two or three people each. So it's something that is part of our culture as a company. People normally talk about indies as like these red tag people who are not organized, just do things because they love. We do
Hmm.
things because we love, but it's also our business, and we want to make sure that we have a kind of like positive impact. I know you said this was very funny because when I'm quite new in the game industry, relatively, I'm working for 4 years before I was working in technology. And in the very beginning, my first year, I had a talk, like I went to give a talk about, people like me, like black creators and women and LGBT coming to the game industry. And I was trying to say, hey, I'm here, you can do it as well. And then last week, I was talking to somebody, and then she said, "I watched your presentation 3 years ago, and that what made me decide to learn coding." And I was like, "Oh, that is awesome.
That's
That is
amazing.
that is amazing." Yeah. So it's part of our work to be inspire other people.
Dan, let me pick your brain. Following up this, uh, I'm really happy for your company to do this. It's something ideological for me, makes lots of sense, and connects with some projects that our team at IndieX are doing in terms of helping people both in education and
Mm.
fighting some unfortunate prejudice that still are, and trying to fight,
Mhm.
especially in like our case, our industry is not in the same place that the United Kingdom is, and far from it.
Mm.
So, and our mission is also to try to help uh, indie scenes with similar backgrounds as ours to showcase them and to give them all the help possible. So, allow me to pick your brain afterwards about this, because I
Yeah, of
think we
course.
we would love to to join forces with Dreamnauts in your own mission. That I think it's similar to our own mission. Okay, I'm going to open Grid Force now, and while I do, I would like to ask you, Dan, in this moment, how many people are working and worked on Grid Force?
So yeah, this studio is 11 people. We started Grid Force, the development with four, and we've been adding people as we grew. The development of Grid Force was around 3 years, like a year short of 3 years. Um, and this number keeps varying because as part of our mission, we also accept students to come and spend some time and run from us. But I think the bulk of the game was made by 11.
Okay, okay, and all of you are working full time in the project.
Yes, man. Like right now we are not, because right now I gave everybody uh, the main development was wrapped up a month and a half ago, and we are working on
Wake up,
ports
wake
for
up,
consoles and
wake
also
up.
some DLC. So I gave some people a few days to recover before we start working on our next game.
And then,
Um,
all
but yeah,
because
doing the development
a
was
world,
everybody
the grid.
full time, all the time.
So Grid Force was released on Steam. We watched it on Xbox Game Pass, if I'm not wrong.
No, so it's gonna be launched on Xbox and Switch next month.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So for now, it's just PC, Steam. We want to make sure that we have the game in the best possible position to go to Xbox. And also, man, approval and certification is complicated. So Steam is always much easier to get, to get your hands and start working. Um, so yeah, it's gonna probably going to get also to go to PlayStation, but it's probably gonna be a bit further down.
But are you finding some difficulties on reaching PlayStation or porting to PlayStation?
No, this is funny. We decided to keep PlayStation as a second option because we re the thing is that we are Nintendo, fanboys, and we thought this game would work so well on Switch. And we knew that trying to do three ports at the same time might be a bit complicated. So it was a very hard decision to go for Xbox, or Xbox or Switch or PlayStation. Um, but we have a very good relationship with people from PlayStation, and it's probably going to be quite easy to get them here. We just want to make sure it's our first game, and we want to give a good impression, so we don't want to rush anything.
Yeah.
So once the game is on Switch and Xbox, then we're gonna be focusing, or maybe even bring some exclusive content for people on PlayStation. As I'm so sorry we are late, for them.
Do you? I don't know if your team already talked about this. Sometimes we think something is out of reach or it's just a dream, and it might be closer to happening than we sometimes believe. Um, have you ever wondered or thought about reaching Capcom and saying like, "So guys, we did this game. Uh,
Actually, no. It's funny story is that when we started creating Grid Force, we just wanted to create our first game, and my dream was always to be independent,
mhm,
and I fought very hard for this. Also because we knew, like, deep inside there would be a hard sell. Grid Force is a mix of lots of genres.
mhm,
It's a game that it requires you to be very open to, gameplay that normally is not very initially intuitive. Um, so we knew there would be um, just extra work to try to convince a publisher or whatever it is. We just want to create our first game. So we never actually reached out to Capcom. But the second reason for not doing that is that although there's a big inspiration on Mega Man Battle Network, I
yeah,
don't think there's
it's
there's
your own
any
universe.
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would probably, if Capcom comes to me and say, okay, now that you did Grid Force, I want you to make the next installment of Mega Man Battle Network, I'll say yes, please. By that time was we just want to create our own game without any interference from anyone.
But sorry, but if this is completely hypothetical. Imagine the other way around. Okay, Grid Force is a really awesome looking game, a really awesome game to play mechanically. It's really well polished. Um, I think it doesn't transpire the idea that it's your first game on how cohesive the game is and feels. Imagine an hypothetical scenario where it's actually Capcom that was looking at the void they have on some of the sub franchises related to Mega Man, and they say, "Well, we've played your game. Do you want to do a new like you had Star Force? Remember after Battle
Hmm.
Network? Do you want to do this new series? And we're under hire you to create something original for Mega Man? Would would you say no?
Being very honest, I don't know.
Okay.
Uh, there is always a tension between your. I don't think that having a publisher or having an investor or anything is inherently bad.
Hmm.
It can be very good and give you lots of
But it has
resources.
limitations.
But yeah, but
Yeah.
it brings you limitations,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I don't know. You have to the payoff of this. Our next game, for example, is very different from Great Force. It's a completely different genre, and I don't know if you create a successful game under the banner of a publisher,
Hmm.
will not be caged in having to continue doing this
Yeah.
forever. We love Grid Force, and we have so many ideas for Grid Force 2, but we also have lots of other ideas, and the team wants to experiment. Um, so I would love to be in a position where every 2 or 3 years, Dreamnauts brings something really fresh and really new to the table, and then maybe every 6 or 7 years we go back to something that we created and we love, and then create a 2 or 3 or some kind of sequel. But I think experimentation for the team is more important than anything else.
Can you unveil just a bit on, for example, what genre are you experimenting now? What can we expect from Dreamnaught in your new endeavor?
We, yeah, we are going to try to turn-based games what we believe that we did for grid-based games with Grid Force.
Hmm.
Um, the it's a turn-based game, but the mechanics are really wacky and weird and different. Um, and is a again, I love creating universes. I love creating characters and mythos and creating lore. So our next game is gonna be less story heavy, but it's still gonna be telling some compelling story. This is all I can say for now. I'm just like very concerned about my producer look at me and say, "Shut up."
um, it's not like between the two streaming channels that are doing the stream. Uh, it's just some hundred people listening to this, so nobody's listening. No, but
But it,
yeah, go ahead.
I will tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing. I don't believe in secrecy. I don't believe in just like keeping things on the wraps. There's a lot of people in the industry that I really don't understand why they feel so protective about their ideas, because ideas are nothing without execution.
Hmm.
And you can say I have an amazing game idea of a game that is going to be X, Y, Z, but between this and actually create the games, a huge gap. So we are probably the reason why we don't talk much about the game is not that we are concerned about anything, is because we're gonna make a announcement quite soon, and we want to have all the right assets to
Yeah,
explain
yeah,
what the
yeah, yeah,
game
yeah,
is
yeah,
about.
yeah.
And I think I would do a very bad job trying to do this right now.
You just said something. I remember the first time I went to Gamescom to try to do business for a game I was developing. It ended up not being developed. But I had this really naive idea. Um, like, oh, and now I'm going to show my game and somebody is going to steal my idea, and then I felt so idiotic for thinking about it, because it's exactly that, like the difference between an idea and execution, it's it's uh it's really big.
Yeah, and even if you have if somebody steals your idea and they start trying to create it, if you get the same game design document and give it to two different teams,
Yeah, they will
they're gonna
reach
create two
different
different
places.
games.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So and you know, if creating games is probably is very hard. It's very easy to start a game. It's very hard to finish a game. Um, so I really don't believe in keeping secrets about our ideas. It's like I want to show everything as soon as possible. I,
Because I remember
I think
even
it's
with publisher, I was like, well, we're a studio in Portugal, um, and if we're gonna show our game, what makes them not pick up a already established studio and steal our idea? And then I just stopped to think about how idiotic I was being on thinking about it, and I thought, okay, first we're cheaper. It's sad to say that, but we're cheaper. Uh,
that
and it's also cheaper to already have the team that is working in the game. If you like the game, if the publisher or the investor wants likes the game, it's easier for just let the team keep developing it.
that is interesting, right? Because there is this factor of the passion in developing idea that people like under underappreciate how much difference it is when the team actually love the idea
Hmm.
and they really want to get this done. So you get idea of a team that is like pitching it and say, we can do this, I can prove that I can do this, I'm very passionate about it. And then you give to somebody else who says, I'm just gonna do a job.
Hmm.
The results are gonna be different. So I still feel like if I was a publisher, somebody showed me idea, I would say probably the best people to do this are the people who are showing me the
Yeah, yeah,
idea.
yeah, yeah,
If they
yeah,
yeah, if they can show, that they have you know a lot that this industry is all about proving that you can do stuff.
yeah.
Um,
And it's a pragmatical thought when you actually stop to think about it. Like, uh, well, money makes the world go round, and in the end of the day, you probably will, like you said, get a better product by the team that actually is envisioning the game that just some work for hire. That's
yeah, for sure.
I think it's hard to argue that, because you can't argue against it.
Yeah.
Or
If
you are a
we
really good team that can mimic the, it's not the passion, but at least the investment, the emotional investment on doing the game. But yeah.
Yeah, talking about Grid Force specifically, the story of the game and the characters were all created by pretty much everybody in the team. So it's very different when somebody's going to do animation or a particle effect for a character that they have ownership. You can see like we try to avoid crunch because it's not good for anyone. But we normally get people saying, "No, I really want to finish this character. I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
want to finish this because I love it,"
Because it's
and it's something
yours.
that yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I
So I
think,
think
yeah,
there's a
it's true.
difference.
When you work out of passion, it shows off.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, of course, the comparisons we were doing with the Mega Man Battle Network, and just by the fact that you're shooting and moving on a grid. Uh, there is a lot more in the mechanics of Grid Force than, like we were saying. It's there is this foundation, but the building that you created on top of it, it's far more than its own foundations. For example, one thing I noticed, the game is really challenging, and believe me, I'm maybe I'm looking like a fool playing like this, like sucking a lot, because I'm trying to talk at the same time and dodging every projectiles. um, but there is some strategy around grid force, isn't there? It's not just shooting and moving. You actually have to think about what element are your characters can use, what elements the enemies are defending, isn't it?
Yeah. So the normally the way we describe Grid Force is a tactical bullet hell RPG. And the reason why we call it bullet hell is because, yeah, sometimes is there's quite a lot of action happening, and you have to think very fast. But there are lots of strategies that you can do to make sure that you have the best possible group. So when you play with the game you play with four characters at the same time, and you can switch between them using L and R button. But all characters are different and they have different elements,
Hmm.
which really impacts your fight against characters with elements that are weaker than the ones that you are playing. And on top of this, characters have the classes. So there are four classes in the game, and each class is good in a different thing. So you have a combination between classes and elements, and four of them that you control at the same time. So there are a few fights in the game that some people came to me and said, "Oh, this fight is impossible. I cannot win it. Your game is broken." I was like, you have to think a bit more tactically about it. And then the people just go away and think, okay, this character is fire. I'm gonna get these characters that are water, and I'm gonna get these characters who defend very well this and have this special ability. And then they come back to me and say, "Oh my God, I managed to finish the the defeat the enemy." And I think it's this feeling of experimentation.
Hmm.
And the game is is hard, but I don't think it's punishing. Um, but it also rewards you for thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
And also, all characters they have different skills, and if you think about these skills in isolation, they might feel like random. But the reason why we create some skills that feel a bit random is that because we know that people are going to be able to combine different skills and find new uses for them. So it's the most interesting thing for us as creators is just sit and actually see somebody playing the game and figuring out all these strategies by themselves. That's why in the game, in the team, we are actually created a wiki for the game, but we try not to spoil the
Yeah,
game
yeah.
because I feel like it's great when people actually
Because we
discover
just
this
noticed
the
we
right
have more
strategy.
than 20 unlockable characters, don't we?
Yeah, we have 28
Yeah.
unlockable characters, and each one of them has six different abilities. So you imagine all the combinations that you can have.
You know, there's something else also noticed, and I have to congratulate you and your team. It's the fact that starting with this initial characters, you also had you thought about representation even in these first characters, like having a character that I believe must have a disability. She's on this mystical wheelchair with commas. Also have someone with a plus size character, uh, and I think it's really positive for you to step out of the stereotypes we usually have for video games, where everybody almost fits in a specific ideal of how heroes or protagonists must look. And I have to congratulate you because it's something that really stands out, and I believe it resounds what kind of studio, what kind of team you are.
Thank you, man. For us, this is very, very important. But I think as important as this is to be able to do this without sounding like we are preaching.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, it's a
oh
natural
yeah,
natural thing, organic thing.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so the team was very concerned about it. The team was like, we have to create characters that are very different. And one thing that was very important for us from the very beginning was they need to have a reason to be here.
Mm-hmm.
The characteristics, let's say about Pan and her disability, is a big part of her story arc, is a big part of who she is and the things that she has to, is Pan is one of my favorite characters because everybody sees her as somebody with a disability but herself,
Oh,
and how
nice.
yeah, but she just don't feel like this is the case. And her story arc is about getting into terms with how the world sees her. um and all these characters, they have to have a reason to be the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great because we know lots of people that, of course, this is a fantastical place. So the problems that they have are fantastical as well, but we make sure that it was relatable. We with people, plus size people, people with disabilities, people from different cultures, how the world around them sees them, and how these characteristics make them to be who they are. So the one thing that I'm more proud about this story is the um, for very few cases, we go. Most of them, people come and say, "I relate to this character,"
Hmm.
or "I relate to this struggle," or "I relate to this." I tried not to get somebody like Pan, um, like a character that is tragical. She can be very inspirational as well. And this is how we see they are people. They are complex. They are not all good and bad. They are just very complex, and try to honor the complexity of people.
Do you feel your team's emotional and passionate dedication to creating these characters, not only visually but more than anything, to fleshing them out as people, even fictional people? Um, for you, it might sound unfair that not everything that you created in for your characters can actually fit inside a video game.
I think the medium of video games is actually great because let's say games like Final Fantasy 4, 5, 6, they're very limited in terms of visuals or
Yeah,
text or whatever.
and they
But
created amazing characters.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They managed to pass all those emotions. So for us, is a challenge that we like having. We like the limitations of being an indie studio trying to. It's not just about can I tell the story of this character, is that can I afford to create all animations for it? Can
Yeah.
I, you know what I mean? Like there's such a complex challenge, but it's the kind of thing that makes us wake up in the morning, continue working. I love when somebody goes to the story and then see nuances that I didn't,
Hmm.
even as a creator, because they got the character and they make the character their own. And I think it's like there is a phrase that says books belong to readers, and I think games belong to players. So once the game is in the hand of the player, I am very happy for them to interpret and take whatever they want out of it. You know what I mean? Independent of my intention, as long as they understand that it's something that we did with heart and with the best possible intentions.
Do you feel that the biggest challenge during all the Grid Force development process was actually to flesh out your collective ideas of who the roster should be and how they fit in the general tone of the game?
That was quite hard. To be honest, the team, I'm very fortunate because I try to bring a diverse group of people working together, but who I think fundamentally all humans are compatible as friends. You just have to, some people have to work the
Whoever
differences a bit
has
more.
kids knows that all prejudice is homebred. It's not
Yes,
natural.
absolutely. So I think I was very fortunate the team that we put together became friends. So we actually do everything together. We go, on barbecues, and we go to the cinema together, and we hang out together when we're not working. They come home, and I cook for everybody. So we have, although it was very hard for us to get to, a consensus of what we are trying to do with the game, we had so many opportunities to talk about it. So it was very funny because somebody bringing boyfriends and girlfriends. They will very quickly become two groups. There's a group of people working the game, talking about the game, and then everybody else talking about something else, because we just could not think or talk about anything else.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so at the end, we there's a lot of compromises that you have to make. There's a lot of ideas that you have to take out, or it was not fixed. The game's supposed to have another stage, and I was really into it. I really want the stage to be this world to be in the final game, but we felt like this was actually weakening the story, and I have to fight really hard with the team to keep it. And it was like done. First of all, we don't have money. We have to finish this game. The resources are finite, and we have to get this done. But second, this is not making the story better. Um, so we had to actually let go something. But in general, I think we are very happy with the story. Um, and the decisions that people have to make in the game also be as impactful as possible. And for that, we have to correct some things. But
And how was
yeah,
the
we're very happy with that.
how was the inception of the studio? Did you start it yourself, Dreamnauts? How,
Yeah, so it's quite different from a normal indie studio because I come from Brazil, from quite poor family, and I spent quite a lot of time trying to like lift myself up from poverty, and then I had made a career in the tech industry. And 4 years ago, I decided that I could either um, retire, just go back to Brazil, get a nice house, and just live off what I did, or create something that I really love. And I really want to create games since I was a kid. So when I create Dreamnauts, I wanted this to be an independent a studio that was
hmm
very focused on bringing people who are normally not necessarily from the industry. So this is our first game, literally. This is the first game everybody in the team made. Um, so
Really?
we made small things before, but not at this size. So I want to show that a diverse team with less experience that the industry want to say that you have to have would be able to finish a game in 3 years and get good reviews. So that was my it was almost like spite for the
Yeah,
industry. It's like I have to prove
I
you
can
guys
do it.
wrong. Yes. Um, so that was
But
the
specifically
concept of
for a
the game.
studio that is starting, like you just said, that you had neither of you had previous experience in the industry. Was it hard? And pardon if I'm going to private informations. Please answer just if you want. Did you feel it was hard, for example, to raise up some investment for the game because of
We
that?
we yeah, we didn't raise any
Oh,
investment. I pay
really?
for
Oh, okay,
everything.
okay,
Yes.
okay.
That is, I think it will be impossible. And I learned this from the very beginning. Because when I'm going to talk to investors, and I did this for just a brief time. First of all, some very nasty things that happen that people don't even understand. When you talk about a black guy asking for money. I'm so
God.
sorry, but it does exist.
Really?
In the second,
Sorry. Yeah, I'm
yes.
just sometimes I say this sometimes you of course I'm a European white guy. We can talk about my background later, but in private, but I think there is sometimes when you don't actually feel things by yourself, that if you're
Mm.
surrounded by people that don't have any kind of prejudice, that don't think in that way, when someone actually tells you, like you just said, things like that happening, you almost feel like, really, didn't we evolve enough as society to go
I,
through
w-
this?
I'll tell you, I would love to do this, and I've always very concerned about people think that I'm whining. It's just like, do you have proof, or is just your perception? And um, something very interesting. So just to explain to you, so I have data. Is we start sending decks to publishers and investors,
hmm
and got very little, message back. And I always, as a as a Afro Brazilian, you always feel like, is this anything to do with that? And then I made a test. My producer is a white guy, and we got exactly the same deck, exactly the same one. And I put my picture in the beginning of the deck, and he put his picture in the beginning of the deck,
God.
and each one of us sent to 20 investors.
To the
Um,
same? No,
he,
different.
yeah, different
Okay.
ones. But it's a good, it was random, and he got 12 responses, and I got two.
Two?
Yes.
Good.
So exactly same thing. So I can definitely say that there's some bias there. The people might not even know. Uh,
There's one of the that's one of the reasons that we have been I don't know if you heard about we've been doing this for 7 years, completely out of passion. It's our hobby outside of our hobby. We actually invest our own money to try to showcase games because we're passionate about it, and our mission is to, most of all, to give voice to those that eventually don't have the possibility to get rich. And you know, when you, even during this edition, talking to developers from Guatemala or Pakistan, and it's something that we've been talking a lot in previous sessions. Um, I think sometimes talking about different realities might also be a reality check to developers on individuals in other countries, especially in Europe or America. You know, because I think it's hard for us. Well, it's easy for us sometimes to not recognize some kind of how good things are for us in comparison with the struggles and how people have to work harder twice or thrice what other people should do. You know, um,
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that nobody wants to talk about this anymore because everybody's really tired, I guess. But ignoring also is not a very good, it's not a very good
especially in
look.
the way that politically the
Yeah.
well,
So for,
how everything is
yeah,
so
for
polarized.
yes, absolutely. And then for us, on top of all of this, has the idea of somebody without experience is not worth my money. Which honestly, I feel like, yeah, fair enough. Um, the other thing about all the idea of getting somebody outside from the industry in the industry and then put some money on them is and it's something that we do a lot in the industry in the studio is allow people from those backgrounds to fail, because if you even if you give some money to somebody, say a black woman to create a game, what you expect is the game is good and is successful, because otherwise it's a waste of money. But you don't think the same for anybody else. Like if you get a developer, a white developer who already did games before, if the game didn't go well, oh well, that happened. The industry was not ready for the game. But if it's somebody who is not necessarily part of the industry, there's always this pressure of, are you actually using the money that I gave you
Mm,
wisely? And what you try to do in the team is, you have the right. We don't want you to fail. We don't want you to do a bad job, but you have the right to learn, and fail is part of learning. Um, and it's something that for us is important to get people to try different things and be able to thrive or to fail. But I understand that it's very hard to ask people to just put their money out there and just like, yeah, so people can fail. And that's the reason why it was important for me to do everything myself, and to
to keep that
pay for
independence.
everything.
Yeah.
So I could give them. I can just come to my team and say, let's do the best we can, and if we fail, it's okay. We learn. Um, so now I think we are in the position that we can go to publishers and say, hey, you see, we are able to do this. Can you trust us from now on? But yeah, I think that was important for us to do everything ourselves. And I know it's a position that not everybody is
Yeah.
in. And I'm not anymore because I'm broke. But it was
Hope it's just a
worked out.
temporary thing, and that Grid Force actually will be able to uh, return you to the previous state.
Let's just hope.
Yeah. Well, the quality is here, so there's no argument there. Um,
Thank you, man.
Dan, I think it's we have a saying in Portugal. Am I moving on the go, or are his movements planned? I'm moving on the go, but I'm having a serious conversation at the same time. So this is the best that my multitasking brain might allow me to do.
Yeah, the thing is that this fight is very taxing. It's one of the first bosses in the game.
Yeah,
So yeah, you need to engage your brain.
yeah.
It's
I
just
lost
wiping
again.
you.
Sorry.
She's
People do
wiping your
the
butt.
games done. What's the name of the project? Done games done fast. But there should be a program like games done by at the same time doing something else like your taxes or something.
Yeah.
That's the real challenge. Games done
Yes,
quick.
definitely.
Thank you. Quick, not fast. Quick. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Uh, then
Uh,
Grid Force is amazing, really
yeah.
challenging, and I'm just saying this because I'm losing a lot, and I'm not gonna use the excuse that I'm having a serious and interesting conversation with Dan while playing this amazing game. You, from what you've noticed, we have a lot to strategize with. We only have 4 characters, but there will be 28 available, and all the combinations and the strategy we'll have to break each of them, each mission. It's something that makes Grid Force really stand out. The characters are really unique, and I think that's something not easily achievable. So then I think you, of course, you and the rest of the Dreamnauts studio are really congratulations to what you achieved. It's your first game. Neither of you had any experience in the industry. I think it should be looking at what you achieved with Grid Force. It's almost like this. Gentleman white glove slap on so many people's faces. No excuses. You only have to have talent and dedication, and not getting broke. Sorry, Dan. Sorry for saying
Yeah.
this.
So I always keep I make this joke that we did the game out of spite, but it's, it's, it's not. We don't want to, show we prove people wrong. We just want people to just realize that um
It's possible.
just give a chance. Just give
Yeah,
a
yeah.
chance to people. You might be surprised.
But do you think it's becoming more frequent, that kind of openness from publishers or investors, than, for example, it was maybe 10 years ago? Um, what do you think? Do you think that those doors are opening? Are we far away from it?
I don't think that is open through the traditional publishers, if I'm completely honest with you. But I think there are more initiatives that it didn't exist before.
Hmm.
So people like some publishers do an amazing job. If you don't mind me doing a shout out to a few of them that I know they're doing great job. Like Humble have the Black Creators Fund,
Hmm.
or Wings that do things for female, um, female identifier, also female um, developers. So you have this, in UK we have something called the Games Fund. Um, so all those initiatives that are created to help, they're amazing and they're not there before. I don't see like traditional publishers actually putting a lot of serious efforts. And I'm not even saying just get half of your, resources and do this. Or like a small part would be absolutely amazing. It's better than nothing. Um, I just hope that things change. I think they're always expecting one game to be a big success. So, um, okay, now it's time to, invest in this.
Hmm.
Um, Unfortunately, I know there's a lot of conversation, and I know the change happens after conversation. So I really hope that the future would be a bit more open for big publishers or medium publishers, to be honest. Um, right now, it's a bit complicated. Um, yeah, and the other thing is I don't think it helps much is helping games that are made by minorities just because they're made by minorities
Yeah.
because we can create amazing games. It doesn't have to be a shitty game, but because I'm a back creator now I get money. It's just like we can actually create good games. Um, but most of the time we don't have the chance to do it.
But I think it are the positive and what the fight you've been fighting, not only for developing Grid Force, but actually to have convey that message that might work as the examples and the strength for people trying to follow the same road. I truly believe it's your cases like yours that will help. So
Yeah.
yeah, congratulations, Dan. Really.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
And Grid Force is amazing. If you haven't bought it, then again, you have no reasons why not to, because it's um, you can already buy it on Steam, can't you? You have a demo available.
Yeah, we have a demo available. It's on Steam, and in a week time, we're gonna bring a huge update.
Yeah.
So it's actually a few days, a couple of days, I think. Our new update, 1.05, is coming with quite a lot of adjustments and balancing and character abilities, and there's a lot of things coming up. So we're going to continue working on Grid Force for a long time. Make sure that we get feedback from the fans and then we make the game better. Is a work of love, and we really want to continue working for the community. And very soon it's going to be also in console.
And I want to finish this streaming session quoting Bernard from D&DX streaming team. He's saying ethically committed studios and developers should be celebrated, and I say that, and I top that sentence, and celebrating their amazing games. And that's what you should be doing with Grid Force. Dan, thank you and the rest of Dreamnauts Studios for submitting your game, for having Grid Force as part of IndieX 2022. It was a really a pleasure having you here, playing your game, having this awesome conversation with an amazing person like you. And thank you, really.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. Very, very good to meet you. And thank you for IndieX for this space.
Thank you. Please stay tuned for in the next 7 minutes. It's not going to be me, but we're going to return with another of our finalists. And it's going to be an amazing game, because that's what IndieX 2022 is all about. So please stay tuned.
Wake up. You were a waste of time.